It's the Ask Ria Show, coming to you live with life, love, and the supernatural. From the real lifestyle of the rich and famous to the Cupid of love or the untold stories of supernatural. Get it all right here on the Ask Ria Show. Now, here's Ria.
Here today on the Ask Ria Show on the Week of Life, my guest today not only experienced a devastating childhood experience or experiences, but also at the age of 18 committed an accidental homicide that placed him in a prison for 32 years. You don't want to miss this. Be right back.
It's the power to unite with Ask Ria. Stay put. We'll be right back.
Blood clots can happen to anyone. Up to 900,000 people in the United States are affected by blood clots each year, and 100,000 die from them. Blood clots don't discriminate. You or a loved one could be at risk right now. The good news is blood clots can be prevented. Knowing the risks and symptoms are key. On average, one person in the United States dies of a blood clot every 6 minutes. Don't let that be you or someone you know. Learn more at stoptheclot.org/spread the word.
We're back with your favorite host, Ria, from the Ask Ria Show. Now, here's Ria.
I have here with me today Curtis Lambert from Brunswick, New Jersey, who now lives in Georgia. And he has a story that is going to amaze you about the things he's been through for an accident. So, let's go to Curtis. Hi, Curtis. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining the Ask Ria Show. Can you tell me your first memories or the first most devastating things that took place in your life? And how old were you?
The first time I ever had a devastating moment was when I seen my friend get knocked out. I was like maybe 9 or 10 years old, and I looked up to this guy. And, I thought he was a tough guy. I thought he was, somebody that, can throw down a little bit. So he ran into somebody who was bigger than him. It's always somebody that's bigger and better. And they got into a fight, and he got his jaw broke, and he got knocked out. And it disappointed me, but it also woke me up to some other things, like there's always somebody bigger and better than they are. But it also started to mold me into not being that guy that got knocked out.
So what did it make you, how old were you?
I was like 9 years old.
So what did it make you feel at that time when you saw that?
It made me feel helpless because I wanted to help him. He was older than me. He was like 12 or 13, and I always hung out with older guys. So he was like 12 or 13. And, he was always, experienced in everything, more than I was. I was only 9, but, he used to always do these little karate moves and all that stuff, and I was infatuated with karate. I'm a child of the 70s, so all the kids was infatuated with kung fu and karate and stuff like that. But to me, that was my hero, and to see my hero get knocked out and his jaw broke like that, it hurt me. And it made me mad because I knew that I couldn't be the guy that knocked him out. So,
would you say that instilled a level of anger in you?
It did.
Growing up?
It did make me angry because I couldn't help him, and that bothered me. The fact that I couldn't help him, the fact that I couldn't beat that guy, and I hated that feeling that I couldn't beat that guy. I hated the fact that I knew I couldn't beat him. So it kind of started putting anger in me like that. So I would practice even harder, and I would always picture, what happened to that guy. I would always practice karate or punches and kicks, so that I wouldn't be like that.
So going forward, what are some of the other things you've experienced?
I believe 16 years old, I saw my first homicide.
Really?
Yeah.
What happened with that?
It was a guy, he was an innocent guy. He came in the projects, and he was trying to buy some drugs or whatever. And the guy, he put his gun under the guy's neck, right here. And the guy was pleading for his life. He was telling him, I don't got your stuff. And the guy thought he stole his stuff. He said, I don't got your stuff. He was crying and everything. And the guy didn't believe me. He pulled the trigger. And you can see the top of his head like come off.
Wow. Wow.
And like flipped and then started sliding down his face. And I was just looking at it.
How old were you?
I was 16.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
What did that make you feel like?
I don't know. Part of it, because of the things that happened prior to that, I think I was numb to it, but that was the first time I ever seen it. So it kind of instilled in me, again, another defense. I don't want to be that guy. You know what I mean? So then at 16, I believe I started playing defense, with my life, because I've seen too much. I believe I was exposed to too much, at a young age, prior to 16, being involved in drugs and alcohol and hanging out in bars at 12 years old, running with older guys, and I think those things set my life up for me to lose. You know what I'm saying? Because it took my desire away from being a school kid or a regular kid. I wasn't a regular kid. At 11 and 12 years old and 16 years old, I was already doing grown man stuff. While my cousins and other people were playing basketball and going to camps and, being a part of stuff like this, I was selling drugs. Skipping school. I was doing the worst stuff,
Tell me about your parents. What was your mom or your dad? Were they in your life?
No, my father was in prison. He was in and out of jail. My mom, she's beautiful, man. That's my baby. But she couldn't handle me. I'm her only son. I'm the oldest of 4. I got 3 sisters. Well, I'm the oldest of 6, actually. My father had 2 boys by another woman, but I'm the oldest boy. And my mother, she couldn't control me. I was bad. She would. I was so infatuated with that nightlife. I always wanted to see what it was like because I grew up a kind of kid who would spend the late, they have the late show. I would watch shows like Gidget, Beach Blanket, Big Frankie Avalon movies, and Elvis Presley. But I was infatuated with Elvis Presley. Not only could he sing, but he can do karate too. I'm like, oh my God, this is, what I'm saying? So it was him, Michael Jackson. So, I watched movies like that. And I was devastated once I hit the nightlife and I seen the streets and none of that was going on, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, my mom, she was a good lady, but she just couldn't handle me. I was a bad little boy.
How many siblings did you have?
And that's, I got it's me, my 2 brothers, and my 3 sisters.
So your mom was a single mom?
Yeah, but she didn't have all those kids. My mom she has 4. Yeah, she was a single mom, a single parent.
So tell me about what led to your accidental homicide. Tell me what happened and what led up to it. Why was it considered an accidental?
What led up to it was an accumulation of breakups, letdowns, a lot of heartbreaks, a lot of disappointments. Over the years that I've spent in prison, I've learned through anger management that there's stages, and 3 of the stages that I identified with was stuffing, escalating, and of course the explosion part. And I used to do that. I would, whenever I got disappointed or whenever I got a heartbreak, I would stuff it, and I would try to pretend like it didn't happen because that was part of me playing defense. You know what I'm saying? So over the years, those things started to accumulate, and one night I got invited to a friend's house, and I used to be in Job Corps, but I had to leave. And when I got to this friend's house, there were some other girls there from Job Corps. And they actually got a chance to finish, right? And they were the most beautiful things. Now we were orientation brothers and sisters. We got there at the same time, you know, and they was just like me. We was all raggedy, you know. But when they came, when I seen the finished product, it blew my mind because they were beautiful. You know, they had this glow about them. You know, I mean, you can see the success, you can see the growth. You know what I mean? And then, you know, they were talking about, you know, how everybody was doing good and everybody was doing successful. Then I started to feel real small because there I was sitting there with a pocket full of drugs and nothing to show for my life. So I felt real small. And before it got to me, I left. I went to the bathroom. And when I looked in the mirror, I saw a monster. You know what I'm saying? My face was sunken in, and it just looked like I was running for a long time. You know. And at that moment right there, you know, I think the streets and everything that I've done from that, it was over. You know, I took all the drugs out of my pocket and I flushed them, and I left. I didn't say anything. I didn't say goodnight or nothing. I just left, and I was, you know, the closer I got to going home, you know, the angrier I got. I got angry because, you know, my life was just going nowhere. It was just going the opposite direction. You know, it was going the same direction that all the guys in the neighborhood that I looked up to was going in their direction. You know what I mean? And I just felt like I got played. You know what I'm saying? From following behind these guys, I got played because, you know, they didn't go nowhere, and I was right behind them. And I'm right behind them. So I felt like I was being played, and that made me so angry. And what made it worse is that I had nobody to talk to it about. You know what I mean? So I felt alone. I felt abandoned. And to make a long story short, I took a gun from my house. I took my gun, and I went for a walk. And I knew I was going to hurt somebody because I was like having an out-of-body experience, you know what I mean? And I'm just trying to tell myself, relax, calm down, but, you know, I just wouldn't listen. You know what I mean? I couldn't listen to myself. I could hear myself. I was just that angry, you know? And a young man drove in front of me, and I was trying to scare him because the gun didn't work, really. It was hard to pull the trigger. It had a rusty nail in it. You know, so the barrel, you had to really twist the barrel with your fingers in order to line the bullet up. But it went off. When I was doing all the twisting and all that, and the gun actually went off. And it shot him. I shot him in the head. And I knew I did something wrong because after that gunshot went off, it was like I snapped out of everything. You know what I'm saying? It was like everything was like a dream. And once I snapped out of it, I realized I had to do something. So I was conflicted with holding on to the code of the streets. But everybody said, don't say nothing, don't say nothing, don't say nothing. You know, my most common people saying, don't say nothing, but the inside of me was saying, nah, you gotta say something. So everybody I confided in, I said, yo, man, that was me, I did that. What I'm do? Don't say nothing. But I couldn't stop. So everybody I talked to, I would tell them, like, yo, I did it. So eventually I ended up in the police station.
You took yourself there?
What happened was they arrested someone else who was in my apartment, and I had to go with him. So while I was there, I confessed. It was eating me alive. You know what I mean? I couldn't do anything. I couldn't eat. I couldn't get drunk. The weed did nothing. You know what I mean? I couldn't do anything. Like, it was bothering me that much. I couldn't sleep. So when I got to the police station, I just let it out. I just let them know, like, yo, man, that was me. You know,
What they say?
Well, the narrative, it messed up their narrative. My confession messed it up the narrative, what the prosecution and police department was writing, because their narrative was that he was being robbed and there was a robbery attempt, and he was lost in Brunswick for 3 hours. And Brunswick's not even 3 hours long. You know, so they were trying to say that, you know, all these different things because of the neighborhood it happened in. You know, and then you have a Caucasian guy, and you know he was educated, his family's well off, you know, and the New Brunswick police department and the brother's prosecutor's office, they set a narrative to where it was something else. So by me confessing and messed up their narrative, so nobody wanted to hear the truth. You know what I'm saying? Everybody had something to say and tell me what to say, except for nobody told me to tell the truth, even though I already did it. So the officers, you know, they started asking different questions to try to flip it. Nah, I didn't. They wanted me to say I didn't do it. You know,
So
they
the officers wanted you to say you didn't.
Yeah, they tried to coerce my confession to make it. I already gave the confession, but they wanted me to say how it happened their way. You know, so they would ask me different questions. Now, mind you, I've never been in any institution. You know, I've never been locked up before. This is my first offense, and they took full advantage of that. You know, I didn't know what my rights meant. You know, I didn't understand what I was doing. I knew I was looking for help. I knew that much. I wanted help. They asked me that I want help, and I said, yeah, I want to speak to a counselor. I didn't know I could have said I want to speak to a lawyer, but I just wanted somebody to know what happened because it was eating me alive. You know what I mean? So by me telling my story to them, and it didn't fit their narrative, you know, they coerced a different statement.
Where was your mom at this time? Did she know about this?
No, nobody knew. Nobody knew. Just a few people, just close people to me. They were the ones that knew.
So they just took you down to the station.
Yeah, because I was living somewhere else. Yep, I wasn't living with my mother at the time. I was living with a girlfriend or a friend of mine. And
so you were alone.
Yeah, I was basically homeless. I was just staying at her house, and I left my house at about 16 years old. I left my mom's crib and just got into the streets, you know.
So what happened after they tried to get you to change your story?
Well, the next day, the same thing, basically, the same thing. Even the next day when I went to get arraigned, and the judge asked me, how do I plead? I told him I pled guilty, and the lawyer told me, oh, don't do that. You can't do that. And he told the judge, he entered the plea of not guilty. You know, I sat in the county for like 2 years because I wouldn't stop saying I was guilty. You know, I couldn't get a public defender to take my case. Nobody wanted to take my case because I wouldn't stop saying I was guilty. You know, and the only person that told me to tell the truth, you know, I mean, to keep it real, was the rock in my family, my grandmother. You know, she told me, you know, just be honest. You know, tell her from the heart what happened, and God will take care of you. You know, she said, you ain't gonna get out of this. You're gonna do some time, but God got you. You know, so I did that. You know, I told the truth, and I went to trial. And that's the thing too. Like, I confessed to this crime. Why are you taking me to trial? What are we trying? You trying my guilt or you trying my character? You see what I'm saying? Because they tried to paint a picture of me as being this wild cowboy who used to run around robbing and killing people, but I've never done none of that. Me telling them there was an accident messed up their narrative. Their narrative was that he was lost, he was looking for direction, and someone tried to rob and kill him. That's not what happened. This is what happened. When I tell them what happened, they don't want to hear that. But things started happening in the trial to where it came out that the person who was running for mayor at the time, he wanted that conviction because he found out that their family was well off. So he figured if I punish this guy, you know, you contribute to my campaign, and I'll make sure this guy never sees the light of day. He wanted the conviction. You know what I'm saying? So I guess that's why we still went to trial, because you trying me for what? I confessed to the murder. I gave you everything. Like, what do you want? I'm the one that did it. There's nobody, I have no co-defendants. There was nobody with me. I did it. This is why. I needed help. I was a young man. I didn't understand what was happening, you know, and yeah, they took full advantage of it. And they gave me 30 to life for the body, 3 to 7 for the gun, and they made it a consecutive term. So when you look at it on paper, it says life plus 7 years with a mandatory minimum of 33. So here I was, 18 years old, with one of the biggest sentences that a New Jersey courtroom has ever gave to anyone. And I had no idea what the hell was happening. I would just, for some reason, I found peace in my confession.
When when the judge actually sentenced you, what went through you at that moment to hear life come out of his
Um, be honest with you, I was angry because he cussed me out before he did it.
mouth?
Yeah, he cussed me out. He cussed me out real bad. And he asked me to apologize to the family, which I've been trying to do for years. And I did that. And after I apologized to the family, he went in. He called me the lowest scum of the earth, and he blamed the economics on the city for my crime. He said that because of your heinous act, no one wants to do business with the city of New Brunswick. You know what I mean? And he said, no, he said, because of your heinous act, you put a black eye on the revitalization of the city of New Brunswick, meaning nobody wants to do business with the city of New Brunswick because of young like you. So it made me angry that here I was being punished for telling the truth. You asked me to swear the truth. You asked me to tell the truth from the Bible. Right? You asked me to tell the truth, to swear to this, to swear to that, and swear to that. And I'm telling you the truth, and you're punishing me for it. Right? When you see guys who went up there before me who were career criminals, who got 15 to 30 years. 30 years with a 15, where they have to do 15 years. Some guys got 12 years. Some guys got 8 years. And these are guys who've been back and forth to prison. You see?
So when they came to arrest you, to take you through those doors, what were your thoughts? What were you thinking?
I was never under arrest.
Really?
Yeah, what happened was they came to arrest someone else who was living at my home. And because it was my home and that person was a juvenile, they told me that I had to come down and represent him as his guardian because he's in my house. So I went to the police station basically under the impression that I was somebody's legal guardian. So when I got there, that's when they started springing all these questions on me, and played the good cop, bad cop role. I started tussling with one cop, and he slammed me on the ground and said, it's like 10 people in the projects that don't like you. We going back and forth, and he starts playing the tape with some guy saying that I told him I did it. And when they locked me up, I told him that that's all you got. That's all you got. You take me in the cell. While I was in that cell, though, I was looking for that way out. I said, all right. They went to my house and they told everybody in my house that I confessed to first-degree murder, so that if anyone knows anything, they have to come downtown and make a statement. So when they pulled me back out and take me back into the interrogation room, they're saying, see, your own sister said this, or the mother of your child said this, and she said this, and this person said this. All these people are against you, really? So I just said, you know what? You're right. You're right. And I told them what happened. I told them the same thing I just told you, the whole thing. But it was more to it, of course. But they took full advantage of it. You know what I mean? And like I said, it didn't fit their narrative, so they basically punished me for telling the truth. Because they wanted me to say all this heinous stuff happened.
How does it make you feel inside knowing that you took a life?
It bothers me. To this day, it still bothers me because that wasn't supposed to happen. Yeah, I wanted to hurt somebody that night. I was that angry to where I wanted to hurt somebody, but taking their life wasn't part of the plan. I would have been satisfied with a knockout, or a nice beat down. So I would have been satisfied with that, but taking somebody's life, that's something that I never thought I would do, because I'm the guy out of the guys on the corner who would break away from that crowd and help an old lady across the street. I'm a guy who would, if I got 50 cents in my pocket, I'll give you 45 and I'll take the nickel. I'm that guy. You know what I'm saying? So when it happened, I felt like, the sentence was good. It was good. It was just. It was giving me life and saying that I had to do 30 years mandatory minimum before I got home. I just felt like, all right, there's a chance for me to get home. I didn't want natural life. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do time, but being that I knew I was going to have to do time, after being school to what was happening to me, being in the county jail around the older guys. I had to realize that, in order to deal with it, I had to accept it. I had to accept the punishment because, life belongs to God. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that, we will be called account for. So I spent those whole 32 years begging God for forgiveness and trying to learn more about my relationship with God, more about who He is, trying to learn, just get an education. I spent my whole time education and religion.
What did the parents of the?
They never said anything.
They never said anything. They never talked to you.
I tried to write them a few times, but through a couple of programs that we had a long-termist program where the counselor was saying that we were doing what is it called? Not redemption, self-accountability. And he was saying that, he wanted to do a practice where we would write apology letters to the family and then read them to the group the next week. So everybody had a good one, everybody. So somebody in the group suggested that, he deliver these to the family if he could. He said he would do it if we really wanted to, but he had to inform us that it wouldn't be our words anymore. Because what was going to happen is that it's going to get edited by the DOC, Department of Correction. Then it's going to get edited by the prosecutor's office, and then it'll be sent to the family.
Gotcha.
So it wouldn't be our words. So no matter what sincerity you put into it, it's still going to sound like, some other stuff by the time the family get it. So I never did it. I would just pray for them, and I hope that that God continues to bless them, and put forgiveness in their heart, and that's how that went.
We're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we're gonna talk about 32 long years in prison and the things he went through. We'll be right back.
If you've got a story that you want to share with the world, why not ask Ria and make your dream a reality? Only on the Ask Ria Show.
Dear Jesus, I know this is my first time talking to you by myself, and I hope you don't mind that. I just don't know what to do anymore. My mom can't hear what I'm trying to say to her, and I know better than to talk to my dad about anything that concerns you. Was it ever this hard for you when you were a kid? Or were you ever a kid? I wish there was a way to get my mom and dad to believe in you, so they would hear me and not just send me to my room. I know you're busy and I'm just rambling now, but if you do get the time, can you give my mom the piece that we talked about last night? If not, it's okay. Maybe next time. Oh yeah, amen.
What did you expect with the lifestyle he was living?
When I say hi, he says, how much?
Your body is a temple of the Holy Ghost, created for God.
I hope God didn't waste his money.
Where is he? I want to see my son.
What would you say? I don't know what I would say!
We're back with your favorite host, Ria, from the Ask Ria Show. Now, here's Ria.
Welcome back. We're here with Curtis Lambert, and we're talking about his accidental homicide that landed him in a state prison for 32 years. So, what was it that you were saying about when they convicted you, that the things that they were trying to get you to say that wasn't the truth?
Yeah, well, they wanted me to present myself as if I was a career criminal, a wild guy who just ran around robbing people and murdering people. They didn't want to hear that this was my first time. They didn't want to hear that, I'd never been convicted. They took none of that into consideration. It was basically, lynch that nigga. My trial was a shit show. because I pled guilty. So what are we going to trial for, right? Then when we get to trial, when I finally get an attorney, he has all these different theories because he has a reputation for making someone else guilty, which is called, reasonable doubt. So his first thing was to try to get me to say someone else did it. I couldn't do it. So then he came up with intoxication, self-defense, right? Meaning that I was high when this happened. The reason why he wanted to do that because he knew they were going to convict me, but he was trying to get a lesser conviction. He was trying to get a reckless homicide, which probably would have gave me maybe 15 years the most. So I went with it, and we get to trial, and the judge asked my lawyer, "What kind of defense is that?" He said, "You sure you don't want to talk about diminished capacity? Because diminished capacity has something to do with your mental state, what state of mind you was in." And my lawyer said no. He didn't want to deal with mental capacity because what I was going to say on the stand. So we came up with a plan that I would say that I took all these different kind of drugs that had me in this, state where I saw, which was not the truth. I didn't want to say that, but he wanted me to do that because he wanted me to get a lesser term because he knew they were going to, try to kill me. They wanted to give me natural life. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, his family, the victim's family is rich, and the mayor wanted this conviction. So they pulled out all the stops. They would send people to the county jail who were working for the prosecutor's office, who were undercover trying to get information. And they would pose as if they were public defenders, or they were working for public defenders, or they would pose as people who were writing books, or, you know what I mean? So you had to be careful who you talk to, you know what I mean? So, all these things would take, this is my first time ever going through all of this stuff, so, and then I got to listen to the guys in the unit, tell all these war stories, and, how they deal with, lawyers and public defenders. So it got so bad to where it made me angry, so much so that I ran my first lawyer off because they said you can't trust nobody, right? So then they put this antitrust thing in my head, right? So now the first public defender I get, he comes to see me. Now I'm naive. I'm from the ghetto. I'm not that educated, so I don't know Bill is short for William. So my lawyer comes, the guy comes to represent me. He comes up the steps and he says he wants to see me. So I go over to him and I ask him for his ID. He don't have his ID, but he tells me his name is Bill. I know my lawyer name to be William, but like I said, I didn't know Bill was short for William. But this is the mindset that this whole thing put me in, right? Because of the games that were being played, all the chess pieces that were, I guess it was like a chess game to them. It was a game to them because it's like who can paint the better picture, right? So it's never about really the law. The law just comes in when your pen goes outside or your crayon goes outside the line. You know what I'm saying? Who can paint your picture? So that's when the law comes in. But other than that, it's who can paint the better picture. So they would introduce things that had nothing to do with the trial. The prosecutor she got away with introducing things like carjacking and armed robbery and robbery. And I never did any of those things, and that had nothing to do with the trial. Any other case, those would be grounds for a dismissal. But because I kept saying that I was guilty, when I appealed based on those grounds, they would say a harmless error. This is the state's loophole. When they're being challenged, they'll say harmless error, and they'll say the rest of the evidence was overwhelming. What was the overwhelming evidence? Me saying that I did it. So again, I'm saying back to me being punished for telling the truth, for being honest, and it was basically a whole kill that nigga campaign. You know what I'm saying? Because they wanted, like I said, the mayor wanted this conviction, and I guess he wanted to, win the mayor of the city. I guess it played a part into winning his race, mayoral race. But yeah, they.
So going into the prison, the first day there, what was it like when you were booked in and sent to your cell?
You talking about the county jail or the state prison?
Which one came? Which one did you go?
The county jail came first. The county jail wasn't that bad because I knew a lot of the guys there, so it kind of made it easy. But I was so tired. You know what I mean? I didn't really realize what was happening because the day before was just, I was in the police station from 12 to 6 in the morning or whatever, or 8 o'clock or whatever, I got arraigned. And I barely got any sleep, and then everything was just a whirlwind. Cameras flashing and all these different papers and, questions and questions and questions. By the time I got to the county, I was just tired. But when I did realize what was happening, it was scary. When that door closed behind you, you're in that cell by yourself, and you realize, holy crap, you know what I'm saying? I'm in jail, like, you know what I mean? And you hear guys crying at night, you hear guys screaming all night long. You can't really get no sleep because you got guys who stay up all night long and then sleep all day. I guess that makes the time go faster for some people. But it's just a bunch of different noises, right? And you have to normalize it because it's abnormal noises. On the streets, you don't hear grown men crying. On the streets, you don't just hear guys just yelling just to be yelling. You don't hear guys just banging on the wall or kicking doors. You don't hear this type of stuff. So you have to have this abnormal noise. So you have to normalize this abnormality, right? In order to survive, in order to make it an easy transition. Because if you don't, it's gonna drive you crazy. So that's one of the first lessons that I learned is that you have to just be in your own. You have to be in your own world. And I was already used to playing defense my whole life anyway, so that was another defense that I had to put up.
And this was in county?
This was in the county jail. The state prison is that's a whole different monster.
How many jails did you have to go to before you got to the state prison?
Oh, just one.
Just that one.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you got to the state prison, what was it like?
I was sent to a youth correctional facility first. The whole time, the whole 32 years, besides the county jail, I've been to 3 state institutions. And the first one was a correctional facility in Yardville, New Jersey. And Yardville was like a all-boys college, because, Yardville was, they were known at that time in the 90s for having the best turnout for guys getting their education, so that's what that was. That was like just a boys' college, it was a fashion show. Guys who were able to order clothes, we were able to wear our own clothes then. So you see guys dressed up with their little champion short sets and, little fly sneakers or whatever, and it took your mind off the streets for a little while. You're supposed to focus on your education. You got all the kind of programs to help you, So that, at that point, it didn't really factor in of what level of trouble I was in. Because it was like I guess it's like the seasons where you have a warming up period, and you have the spring, which is the warming up period that goes right into the summer. So this was like this youth correctional facility was like a warming up season until you get to the big house, right? Because again, there it's not a lot. You're in the cell by yourself, and the doors are always open. You just tell the officer to let you out, and you go to the gym, or you go to the yard, or you go to the law library. And, it was like that. So it really didn't feel like you was locked up, except for you couldn't go home. So it just felt like you was in college. I felt like I was in Job Corps again, without just being able to go home.
So what was the transition like coming from there to actually going to the prison? How did they come and get you and take you there?
Well, they come to get you they come to get groups of people at a time. You don't just go by yourself. And they put you on a bus, and you go there. And I went to New Jersey State Prison, which is the last stop in New Jersey. It's like where the worst of the worst is. That's the big house. And that place right there is I don't wish that place on my worst enemy. It wasn't as bad as it was back in the day when I went, when other people were talking about it. But I think the conditions and the psychological effect, I think that's what was killing a lot of people there. Because people were dying every day, you know what I'm saying, in that prison. And a lot of people were dying from not only old age, but, you had people die from cancer, you had people die, a lot of people died from suicide. And not because they were afraid, it's just the way the building is set up, the way it's designed, the tension. It feels like something is going to happen at any moment. As soon as you walk through the door, you already have this perceived notion about it because as a child, you hear about this painting in the mess hall of a lion in the jungle and he's crying. As a child, you're told about that story. And then when you get there and they tell you about the tension, and you feel it as soon as you walk through the door. So it was nerve-wracking for me, It was nerve-wracking for me, and I was on 10. And I was on, like, first person say something to me, I'm going up top and I'm moving in. And that's how I felt. So, but it wasn't like that, It was a place where you can get the best education.
Even in the prison?
In the prison, you can get the best education because it didn't just teach you the standard education, it taught you the real life. It raised you as to be a real man. You know what I'm saying? Because you have guys who's been there since the 60s. And you go into this prison and this is your first time being in jail and you realize this guy already been here 30 years. That guy already got 50 years in. This guy, he's doing 8 years, he's doing 8 life sentences. But they're smiling. And they're bright. And they're strong,
Were you ever tried in there?
No. That what happened was that period, I think that was a cultural thing. The culture where they were trying guys, I think that was a 70s and mid 80s thing. But I got locked up around the Kingpin era, right? So that ushered in a whole new wave of people. So that ushered in the people with the get money, pay for a lawyer, and get out of prison attitude. That big fish, little fish, that was some 70s stuff. That stuff didn't exist when I was there, thank God. I didn't have to fight for that. But
it goes back to what your grandmother said, exactly. That God is going to take care of you in there.
God's going to take care of you. And that was one of his ways to take care of me. He put me in an environment where that wild stuff didn't exist anymore.
So no homosexuals coming at you? Or
they played their own role. You know what I mean? Now, if that was what you was into, then you go there. But I guess they can tell, but I thank God, that I never had to face that. I never dealt with that. I never had been approached by no gang members. Because everybody know me for being the same person. I was always the same person.
So nights in your cell, what are some of the things that you thought about that was more tormenting to your mind?
Most of the time it was how I got here. And it was destroying me. The nights in my cell when I thought about, all the bad things in my childhood, being without a father, my mother not being strong enough to deal with me and raise me the way I was supposed to be raised, the drug abuse, running the streets at the ages I was running the streets. Those things, they were actually, you have to find a way to tune that out. Because those are the things that are key. They make you old, and they make you weak, and they make you depressed. So, I was fortunate. I'm Muslim. So I was fortunate to have people around me who would tell you, like, this is about survival. Their 30 years is a long time. And it's going to be long because I confess. So it's going to be hard for me to get any kind of play when it comes to appeals. So the first thing I have to do, and I had to realize, was that you have to make yourself better. Not for anybody else, but you have to make yourself better for you. And the way to do that is get off that old woe was me shit. You have to get off that shit. And you have to get on some new shit. And that new shit is grow the fuck up. You got to man up now. Your mother ain't here to pay for nothing. You ain't got no girlfriends to pay for nothing. Nobody's doing nothing for you. So you got to get out there and you got to do your own thing. Get a job. Go to school. Study religion. Get closer to God. learn. And that's what I did, and that put me in a certain zone. Because you got different groups. There's a whole bunch of different worlds in prison. And one of the things they say the most times is that you can be whoever you want to be in prison. We don't know each other. So we sitting at a table, I can tell you a story about this man and making my life. And you can do the same thing. And being you in prison, you already got an imagination. So we gonna have each other believing that we somebody we not. But that would be phony. And any person that can look himself in the mirror and be phony.
How long did it take you to settle down or become more comfortable with your atmosphere of being there, considering you had such a long term?
I think about half the time in is when I first heard those doors close. It was the 15-year mark, and it was the most frightening sound I ever heard. You hear the door slamming, boom, boom. You hear them slamming, but when you hear them close behind you like that, it was frightening. It sent a chill through me. And the way the key slapped and the lock slapped at the same time, and it locked my body up. I said, "Oh snap! Oh shit, I'm here." And I sat down and I cried because I realized, even though it's 15 years left on this 30-year sentence, it's not guaranteed because I got life. It's not guaranteed that I'm going to go home after I do the 30 years. So you start to wonder, how long it's going to be, if they're going to ever let you out. And I didn't think they were ever going to let me out because of the race factor that they try to play, try to make it a race issue.
Did it ever get so depressing to the point where you wanted to or even thought about taking your life?
Nah. When it comes to that, I'm a coward. When it comes to that, I am a coward. But it does get depressing to the point where, you have to keep yourself locked in because the smallest thing can set you off, And the worst part for me was I lost the love of my life. And my father. That was my Jay-Z. Everybody else had icons. My father was my icon. And losing them two back to back, literally Tuesday and Wednesday.
Wow.
That devastated. That changed me forever.
That was your mom and your dad?
No, my son's mother.
My
son's mother and my dad. I knew my dad was dying. He was dying from cancer. He died of throat cancer in '99. And I talked to him all the way up to the day. And when I called my grandmother, my grandmother Miola, I called her to console her, but talking to him, telling her like, yeah, we know he's in a better place. We're glad, he's not in pain anymore. The pain is over. He's in God's hands now. We prayed for him. And then she said, wow, I wish I had the strength you had. I said, what you talking about? She said, nobody told you about your girlfriend or the girl you used to be with? I said, which one? She said, the one you used to always be with, your son's mother. I said, what's she do now? So she told me, she said, nobody told you. I said, no. She told me that she died. And she died in a car accident. And I don't know. I think I had an out-of-body experience. I just couldn't talk. I was just standing on a chair and I was looking at the officer. And he knew that look. I guess he'd seen it before. And he moved me. He moved me off that unit. And he told me, I said, I need to see a social worker. He said, brother, you always need, because I lost so many people. That's the most devastating part. One of the most devastating parts of being in jail like that, especially during that time. When you're losing people. And it seemed like I was losing all my favorites,
What did this do to your mother when your mother heard about this and her knowing that you had this 32 years?
It devastated her. It changed her whole life. It still devastates her to this moment, even though I'm home. She's happy as hell I'm home. And now she just wants to lock me in the house with her. But it devastated her. It hurt her bad, and I feel so bad for that. It hurt not only her, but it devastated my sisters as well. I'm their big brother. You know what I mean? And when I left, it changed their life, dramatically. And that's one of the things that hurts me the most, my kids and my sisters. Because those, you know, my sister Tika, that's my first friend. You know what I'm saying? And damn, that should make me emotional. But you know, I think my incarceration, it did something to her that it hurt her in a way that I don't think it. I don't know if she can be healed, even me being home, because 32 years of that separation, like we don't know each other anymore. You know, but we were freaking frack. You know what I mean? I used to have her climbing gates and everything, let's go. And she was happy to be with me. And I was happy she was with me. This was my first friend, my first best friend. And she's still my best friend. I still love her to death. You know, my other two sisters, Sasha and Shiera, they don't know me like that because they were babies. You know, Sasha was 3 years old. She was getting ready to turn 3. My kids don't. None of my kids. I got 5 kids. None of them know me. I'm getting to know them.
How old were they when you went in?
Well, they were all turning 1 or 2 years old or 3 years old, and they all close together like that. And they were all turning like maybe 1 or 2. My oldest son was turning. He was getting ready to turn 3 that year.
So what did it feel like, and when you were in prison, knowing that your children were growing up without you?
It hurt. It hurt me because now I understood. Now, because then I never wanted them to have that because I did it. I had to grow up like that, you know. And I never wanted that for them. And being that I was doing that, then I was doing it for such a long time, it was devastating to me. You know what I mean? It made me work harder at being a better person. You know, it made me work harder when I got on those phones. I was working those phones like, yo, we'll make sure they all right, because my oldest son, if you tell the story of his life, it's like the beginning of every gangster movie or every gangster book. His father goes to jail for murder. His mother dies. Well, his stepfather goes to jail for murder. And then his mother died. And there he is at 9 years old, 12 years old, all alone. This is the beginning of every black book, every black movie. But I'm fortunate, and I have a God that is so great, man, that he kept my son out of the gangs, he kept my son out of prisons, he kept my son off the street. All my kids are good. You know what I mean? I'm so grateful for God to that. My daughters are good. My sisters are good. Everybody's good. You know, I'm down here because one of my sisters. I have 2 sisters down here. You know, Tika and Shahira. And I'm down here because God has been good. You know, and he grant my sisters, you know, a good life to where they can provide for me and help me, you know, get well acquainted with establishing myself in society.
So being that your mother did she come to see you? Did your family come and see you?
I was blessed to have that, yes. I needed that.
And how did that feel for you when they came to see you?
It felt good. Because,
was it sad at the same time?
Yeah, the sad part was watching them leave.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it was good. And it was sad at the fact that I had to watch them get older, you know, through pictures and visits, you know what I mean? Because you go to jail and you don't see them, you have that last image of them. So it's hard to imagine them as adults. So when you finally see them as adults, it starts to weigh on you how long you've been gone. When you sit there, you notice that she was turning 2 years old, and then she tell you, I'm 15. And you say, what?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And my mother said,
so after the visits, when you went back to your room, what was that like for you?
Sometimes it was good. Sometimes it was sad. But I wanted to say that prison is messed up, but I ain't gonna front. I had a lot of fun. You can have some fun in there. You can have some fun. It's not a fun place to be. But when you realize you have to be there and you realize that you made your own bed and you have to lay in it, you know, you'll have some moments where you say it ain't that bad in here today. You ever seen Life, the movie Life, when they were all celebrating and then Eddie Murphy said that line, it ain't that bad in here. It's almost all right in here today. You know, you had a lot of days like that. You know what I mean? Where you have days where, there's no codes. You know, everybody's, happy. Everybody's in a good place mentally. You know what I mean? You see smiles on guys' faces. I mean, this is a place that is dreadful. You know what I'm saying? It's dark. It's dusty. You know, it's moldy. You know, you're fighting for space between, you, the mice and the rats and the roaches. Y'all all fighting for this cell. You know what I'm saying? So the find that peace, to find that solitude to where you can put that smile on your face, or you can have that big, big laugh to where your stomach is hurting and you're tearing up in the eyes. That's one of the best moments, because it's one of the things you can't do in prison is, especially for someone like I said, like plays defense a lot. Vulnerability it can be a crutch, because vulnerability exposes your truth. And you can't walk around the prison being vulnerable like that. You can't be vulnerable. You gotta protect that, because you don't know what no guy's angle is. In there. So.
Did you get any fights when you were there?
Yeah, I had some fights. I didn't win all of them, but I had some fights. I only had maybe on my hand I can count how many fights I had.
Why? What were the fights about?
One fight I lost because I was running my mouth to this big guy playing basketball. It was a basketball fight. Another fight where you get guys. One fight I had with a guy. Out of the blue, he just started talking about how light-skinned guys bruise easy. And he said, "Right, Hanif?" I said, "What?" He said, "Light-skinned guys, y'all bruise easy, don't y'all?" I said, "Man, I don't know nothing about that." He said, "Oh, you know something about that." So somehow I just kept going back and forth like that until we went down and we started fighting. And as I broke this knuckle right here.
And what does the guards do when you fight?
Well, sometimes you can fight and get away with it. That's the dangerous part of prison. You know what I mean? When you respect the guy, you're fighting with his hands. Y'all can fight and then, go play basketball tomorrow. Might be a little tension, but then the dangerous part is that when you can get away with fighting, some guys can get left there.
Right.
Some guys can get left.
Did you see anybody, as they call it, get shanked?
Yes, I've seen some devastating stuff. Some movie type. This stuff looked like movies. It was the most horrifying thing I've ever seen in my life.
What'd you see?
This guy broke the rules. One of the rules is, don't come between the tables when guys are sitting at the table. When you're sitting at the dinner table, don't cut between the tables, because you're liable to rub your ass on somebody's back. That's gonna get you chipped up. So a guy did that, and then after that, he cut the line as well. The lines on Sunday, they get chicken on Sunday. Everybody comes out to eat on Sunday. Everybody wants that chicken. So the mess hall lines are backed up, and it's hot, and it's summertime. And you got the nerve to cut between the tables for one, and then cut that long ass line, and then stick your chest on like, nobody gonna do nothing. So what happened was, I came through the mess hall and I seen my friend, and he asked permission. If I can, this young boy right here, let me, like 3 or 4 of them, come on. So nobody's gonna say nothing because I got permission, so I got in the line. And the guy I was talking to, he was one of my mentors in the streets. And he taught me how to box a little bit. So every time we see each other, I always go at him to see if he still got it, or he always go at me. So when he grabbed me, I started thinking, oh, it's playtime. So I'm grabbing him back. And then he's like, no, and he spit me. When he spit me around to see what I could see, I seen a guy getting stabbed. It looked like a sword.
Oh, wow.
And he was getting stabbed in his back, and you could see his eyes. Like his eyes were screaming for help. And he couldn't get the words out of his mouth.
Oh, wow. That's the guy that cut the line?
The guy that cut the line. He was getting stabbed right there in front of me. And my lips turned white, my mouth got dry, my throat got dry, and I was standing like, oh, what the? Yeah.
Wow.
There's some devastating stuff that happened. Them guys, you got some guys down there, like the respect level is so high.
Was that the worst thing you've seen?
Yeah, that was the worst. I heard about some stuff, but the worst stuff I wasn't there. Thank God I wasn't there to see it. You hear stories about guys getting weights dropped on their head.
So when your mom would talk to you, what are some of the most important things you can remember her saying to you?
Don't let nobody do nothing to you. I don't know. I think the stereotype, the typical stuff about jail is, it takes away from other things that's happening in jail. Because for the most part, everybody always think about the homosexuality part of jail. When you think about guys doing life in prison, the first thing they think about is, instead of thinking, oh, why did he try to escape? When is he trying to get out? They think of, the homosexual part of it, so. Her thing was, I was her baby. So she always just wanted me to always be safe. You know what I mean? That's how I looked at it. But that was the thing that I took to the heart the most. You better not let nobody do nothing to you.
If you could do it all over again, what would you change?
If I could do it all over again, I think I would have never came home from Job Corps that weekend. I was doing so good, and I had gotten to the habit to the point where I would never leave campus. Even I had passes. And the Job Corps I was in was in Edison, and Edison is right around the corner from New Brunswick. I mean, literally, I can go 20 minutes from Edison to my projects. The one weekend I decided to go home, I never went back to Job Corps. And they kicked me out, they AWOL me, they wouldn't let me back in. And life went downhill from there.
If there's one thing you could say to the family of the victim today, what would you say to them?
I would tell them again, like I've been telling them from the beginning. I didn't mean to do that. That was an accident. If you look at how the trial went, you'll see how they play games with everybody. They play games with me. They play games with the family. You know what I mean? That was an accident, and I'm sorry that happened. I wish there was some way I can take it back, but I've spent the last 32 years praying for your son, for their son, for their family, and I'm hoping that God puts him right next to him. And I hope that God gives me something that I can help somebody else from becoming a victim, or both sides, me from becoming somebody like me and becoming a victim of somebody like me.
And if you had to say something to your mother, what would you say to her?
I'm sorry I didn't listen. All the lessons she tried to give me,
Talk to her.
all the lessons you tried to give me, I'm sorry I didn't listen to them. I was hard-headed, you're right. I was too in love with those projects. I was too in love with those streets. And I'm sorry I didn't listen to you. I should have listened to you. But like I said, like you said, you're here now, I'm here now, and I got you. We got us.
Is there anybody else you want to talk to?
My sisters, I love y'all. My kids, y'all already know what it is. I love y'all. All my cousins, all my family. I love all of y'all, man. Y'all know what it is. I'm here. I'm never going to stop telling y'all I love y'all. I'm never going to stop being there for y'all. Y'all know that I will frontline for y'all any given day, win, lose, or draw. I'm here and I love y'all, man. So let's do this. Let's get right back. Let's get right back together and do this family the way we know how to do it. Put this thing back together. I'm here telling my truth. You know what I'm saying? So anybody else bold enough to tell theirs, let's get it.
You're watching the Ask Ria Show. And when it comes to telling the truth, it is so important that no matter what situation you're in, to always tell the truth, no matter what someone tried to get you to say. So until next time, keep it real, keep it positive.